What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, back with another week of NFL picks. This time, week number 16 of the 2020 NFL season. That means we're just this week and next week away from January football, playoff football. This season has been pretty wild. 2020 as a year has been pretty wild, but we can look forward to these next few weeks because teams have entered playoff mode. Okay? There are teams in the AFC, in the NFC, fighting for playoff spots over these next couple of weeks, fighting for the last seed in the AFC, the last seed in the NFC. And there are a lot of big, important games this week. This week also, we have some games on Christmas. We have a Christmas game this week between the Minnesota Vikings and the New Orleans Saints. And we have a bunch of football games on Saturday, the day after Christmas, after you've opened all your presents, you spent time with family, or whatever you're doing this year. I know there's weird circumstances this year, but whatever you're doing, the next day, we're going to have 3 football games. I mean, talk about presents. We get more and more football this week, so that's fun. Guys, before I give you my Week 16 NFL picks, make sure you do Gronk spike that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL videos and weekly NFL picks. I do want to let you know on what's coming up on the channel before we get into the first game, which is a huge game between the Vikings and the Saints. What's coming up on the channel? So I recorded last night my voiceover for my next video essay, which I'm looking forward to editing. I think it's going to be really good. It's basically my opinion on who should be the MVP this year. So look forward to that video coming out very soon, hopefully before Sunday, as a little bit of a Christmas present to you guys. So that video is coming out. Of course, we will have the typical stardom and situm this week to help to get to you guys those fantasy championships and the best bets. We're looking to bounce back this week after the worst week in the channel's history in best bets. So we're looking to bounce back on that front. But these are my initial thoughts and my initial picks for week number 16. So let's get into that. But before I give you my first pick, of course, we need to go over my record. So let's take a look at that record for 2020. We are 155-65 straight up. Pretty damn good straight up this year. Last week, we had a rough spread picks. You know, the last few weeks, we've been pretty damn good with the spread picks. A few 10-6 weeks in a row. And then we hit this last week where we were 7-9. So below 500 for the first time in a while. For spread picks, there were a set of really unlucky games. Like, just talking about my best bets, I mean, Tampa Bay getting a 4th down that they should have never gotten, right? That it was a bad spot. They kicked the field goal there, I cover, right? Kansas City blowing a massive lead. All they had to do was cover the field goal. Of course, it ends up a push. And then, you know, numerous other games where, like, a point here, a point there, especially considering, like, where the spreads were on last Wednesday. Like, for example, there were a couple of games last week where it was, like, a point more or a point less, and, like, if I would have bet or picked the game on, like, Friday or Saturday, I would have gotten it right. So it was just one of those weeks where it was, like, super unlucky and super unfortunate. But hopefully this week, the luck is on our side, and the betting gods and the NFL gods are on our side. So let's start off with the first game of the week, which I'm trying to determine if it's this one or this one. I don't have my graphics filed right, but let's see if it's right. Okay, yeah, we got it. All right, so let's start it off with some Friday night football. Or is it during the day? I don't know. But regardless, it's on Christmas. The Minnesota Vikings and the New Orleans Saints. These two teams we know have a lot of history. A lot of history. These two teams the last couple of years have been in battles. They've had some epic showdowns, right? The Minnesota Miracle, right? We had the Stephon Diggs, huge, down the right sideline touchdown. We had the Kyle Rudolph, did he push off, did he not push off touchdown last year. We've had some really good games between these two teams over the last few seasons, and I'm hopeful that we can get another great game here. The Saints are obviously the favorites in this game. They are favored by a touchdown, 7-point favorites in this game. Now, I'm not sure that I believe in Drew Brees enough to say that they will cover this number. I think this is going to be a really interesting game for me to watch because I want to see how Drew Brees looks in this game. I want to see how he looks a week off, a week from the rust game. Because, okay, you could credit his last performance strictly based on he's coming off of an injury. Maybe he's rusty. But this week, if he looks bad versus a bad defense, then we're starting to consider that maybe the guy is just not what it takes to get the Saints to the Super Bowl. But I think that's the number one priority for this game from a viewing perspective if you're trying to determine, what's going to happen in the NFC playoffs. How does Drew Brees look in this game? Throwing the football physically? How does he look delivering the ball down the field? And how does this offense look without Michael Thomas? I think all of those questions need to be answered in this game. Now, they play a Minnesota defense that isn't very good. They give up a lot of points to basically every opponent they play. They don't have a great pass rush. They don't have a great secondary. They are down a couple players at linebacker, including Eric Kendricks, who's one of their best defensive players. They still have the safeties intact. They still have Zimmer calling the plays and scheming it up. So it's still an intriguing matchup from that perspective. Zimmer, who's had kind of his way with Sean Payton. I don't want to say necessarily like he's dominated the matchup, but for as good as you can play defense in the modern age, Zimmer has had game plans to slow down Brees and slow down this offense over the past couple of years. But the question is, does he have the talent in this game to do it? I'm not sure. But for Minnesota doesn't really have to worry about the deep ball. The Vikings have been terrible at covering the deep ball down the field this year, but Brees doesn't really throw the ball down the field. The Saints offense, are without Michael Thomas, so they're without a legitimate wide receiver threat in this game. And their primary focus for Minnesota's defense will be stopping Alvin Kamara. Can they do that? I'm not quite sure. So this is basically, in my opinion, week on week. I think the better matchup is on the opposite side of the football when we're talking about Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook taking on the Saints defense. That is pretty darn good. They played well versus the Chiefs last week, but still struggled to get off the field on third down and in the red zone. They made plays, though. They put pressure on Mahomes, and they stifled him more so than other defenses are capable of doing. This week, it's interesting because the last couple of times the Vikings offense has played the Saints, they've had kind of spurts of success and other moments of, wild play, let's just say. But last year in the playoffs, Kirk Cousins played phenomenal. Adam Thielen was a huge factor. And really, when you look at the matchup, these two units are not that different from a year ago. I would say the Saints defense is slightly better due to the addition of Hendrickson off the edge, who's been an absolute machine this year. And he's given them an extra ounce and an extra rusher off the edge. So that's a factor there. But, you're just replacing Stephon Diggs with Justin Jefferson. And the rushing attack of Minnesota is better this year than it was a year ago. The Saints were susceptible versus the run last week, which means they're probably human in that category. And it feels like the Vikings have been able to move the ball better on the ground than I've given them credit for, even versus good run defenses like Tampa Bay and like Chicago. They moved the ball in Chicago last week. Their defense just didn't play a part in the game. So I think this is a fascinating matchup. I think if Dalvin Cook can get it going on the ground and the Vikings can play their game script, then I do feel this game is going to be close and it's going to be competitive and it's going to be fun. I do think that whoever Lattimore is not covering is going to have a good game, whether it be Justin Jefferson or Adam Thielen. Either one is going to have a successful day. So I do see the Vikings moving the football as long as they can keep Kirk Cousins upright, and I do believe they can as long as they can establish that run game to keep them a little bit on edge. On the flip side, I do expect Breeze to throw underneath the checkdowns and get a little bit of a rhythm going versus a bad defense. But I don't expect the big plays to be there because I think the Vikings are going to... The Saints aren't really capable of doing it, but I really feel like the Vikings have had good game plans versus Sean Payton offenses the past couple of times they played. So I actually see this game being pretty competitive. I'm going to say that the Saints win the game, but I do think that the Vikings will cover. Whether it's through the back door or it's just competitive all the way through, the Vikings are fighting for their playoff lives, and I do think that matters here. The Saints, I'm just not confident enough in an injured Drew Brees without Michael Thomas to move the football constantly and consistently enough, even versus this defense. So I will say that the Vikings cover the 7, but I like the Saints to win the game. The next game is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Detroit Lions. Currently, the line is 9.5. I believe it started at 8, maybe 8.5. It's moved up since then. Now, the Lions have been dealing with some COVID stuff where their coaches, been in COVID protocol. They haven't even been able to really get in meetings and talk to their players and game plan for this game, which is extremely not good when you play a team as talented as Tampa Bay, and really your only chance is in this game to out-coach them, which is very doable, as we've seen. But if you do not have that edge, then all of a sudden it becomes a, pretty bad thing for you. As we saw last week, Tampa Bay, they consistently start slow, but their talent and Tom Brady's greatness has consistently been able to overcome their poor game plans and game scripts at the beginning of games. Now, they play an opponent here who I don't know who the quarterback's going to be for the Lions. I don't know if Stafford's going to play. Hopefully, for his sake, to stay healthy and go to free agency, he does not. Now, I would love to see my two favorite quarterbacks playing toe-to-toe, Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford. But, I know the Lions aren't going to win this game. With Stafford, I think it could be more fun, though, because at least he can threaten a secondary that has not played very well recently in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Matt Ryan had success versus this defense, so I would expect Stafford to be able to put up some numbers in this game if he were to start. But I'm concerned with the Lions' lack of coaching throughout the week and their overall lack of defense. The Lions don't have a defense. Their defense consists of air. So the Bucs, they've blown out a lot of bad teams this year, and they've done it pretty convincingly. Now, Atlanta was a divisional opponent, so you do have to take that into account for why the game was so competitive. I think the Bucs easily win this game, especially considering the circumstances around Detroit, and their season is over. They're not playing for anything. So I think Tampa Bay wins. And I actually really like where the line is at right now. If you can get it under 10, I think it's worth a bet or worth a play, especially if it so happens that Stafford doesn't suit up for Saturday. Pretty much the only thing he's playing for is pride and for his Iron Man streak, and that's basically it. And then you look at the Lions' injury report of, Ragnow's hurt and Jamie Collins is hurt and a lot of, 5 of their best players. Kenny Golladay is hurt. So Tampa Bay should easily win this game. The thing that I'm looking for with the Bucs in this game is just to continue the momentum offensively, come out, sling the football around, and then I'm looking for the defense here. I think this is a game where we can learn about the defense. If Stafford is playing, this is a challenge on the defense, on the secondary. So for a secondary that hasn't played as well lately, what you're looking for as a Bucs fan or somebody that might be riding the Bucs in the playoffs is looking to see how good the secondary plays, how competitive they are. They are very young. Let's see how they take and ride the momentum into the playoffs. But that's the number one thing I think I would be watching in this game. Tampa Bay, both ways. Next game, We have the San Francisco 49ers at the Arizona Cardinals. The week 1 matchup so long ago that you can almost take nothing into account for this game. I don't even know who the quarterback is here. I think it's CJ Beathard. I believe it's CJ Beathard. Nick Mullins has, I think it's Tommy John's surgery that he's about to have, but I'm not exactly sure. Arizona is -5. They are the favorite in this game. They are competing for a playoff spot just like Minnesota, so that does play into things. San Francisco is not. Although I did hear that George Kittle might return for this game. For any fantasy owners out there, he might be playing in this game. Maybe this game is competitive, but I'm definitely going with Arizona here. I've given up all faith in the 49ers. I think the 49ers, I didn't realize how poorly their offensive line is played, which has in turn, made Nick Mullins a bad quarterback even worse than he already is. And the defense was really bad versus the Cowboys last week, which I did not expect. So the Cardinals, as an offense, should be able to mix in the run with the pass. I thought Cliff Kingsbury had a good game plan last week versus the Eagles. I thought he did more with the offense in the passing game with DeAndre Hopkins, moving him around a little bit more, getting him freed up, getting him one-on-ones. I expect him to win his matchups on the outside as well in this game. And more Chase Edmonds, I believe. Honestly, I think he's the better back in the backfield. And the defense for Arizona, I do think is slightly underrated. Their ability to create pressure with Vance Joseph coming up with creative game plans. Getting after a CJ Beathard is not going to be hard. And, no Deebo Samuel, probably no Kittle. There's just a lack of weapons and big play players for San Francisco on both sides of the football. And they're really not playing for anything. So that being said, I'm going to take Arizona to win. And I will take Arizona to cover. I'm not confident in that though. And it will not be one of my best bets. Just because Arizona is not, I don't believe they're that good to the point where I can truly trust them in a divisional matchup versus still an average football team. So, and a team that did lose the first time. The game was close the first time. I think, the Cardinals will win. They need to win here. But as far as the cover is concerned, I'm going to take them to cover, but I'm not super confident in it. The 49ers, just look at last week, right? The Eagles, super undermanned on defense. They still found a way to make that game interesting at the end there. The Niners could be the same thing. It could be a weird game, but I'll take the Cardinals. All right, so this is potentially a stream of the week. Let me know what you guys think about this, but I was thinking about doing, I didn't do the Dolphins game with Durkant last week versus the Patriots. I was thinking about doing it, but maybe I'll just do it this week instead. We have the Miami Dolphins and the Las Vegas Raiders. This is obviously a huge game in the AFC. The Raiders still have a glimpse of hope in the AFC playoff picture, but not a ton. Miami, though, is really needing to win this game. So it is a huge game in the AFC wild card. This game is really interesting to me. I think this is a contrast of styles. I think this is John Gruden offense versus a Brian Flores defense. Both kind of have difficult matchups, I believe, for the Dolphins on facing this offense, that I think the Dolphins are kind of in the mold of the goal is to slow down the upper echelon passing attacks in football. Their goal is to, like New England's defense, slow down the Kansas Cities and the Green Bay Packers and those kind of teams, right? With all the weapons and slinging around the yard and the mobile quarterbacks. And the Raiders kind of play like a throwback mid-2000s offense with a little bit more of a modern twist to it, where they still, will line up in the I formation and they'll give it to Jacobs 20 times. They love to play action boots. They love to give it to Darren Waller and to the flat, just easy completions, a lot of short stuff. They don't really go down the field a lot. They have a good offensive line, big, powerful. They believe in size on offense. The Dolphins believe in speed. So it's a contrast of styles. I'm really intrigued to see how that goes down and how that plays out. Now, I lean towards Miami winning this game, although I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders won. because I do think this is a difficult matchup for Miami and their defense, where that is where their strength lies, is their defense. Miami's going to win games based on their defense. But I saw enough last week, and the Raiders have a much better offense than New England. But I saw enough last week where, they can be competitive in the run game. They can slow down Jacobs, who's been inefficient for most of the year anyways. I think they have the players in the secondary to match up with Darren Waller enough. And it's not like the Raiders really have great receivers out there that are really going to be a problem. So I'd actually be very intrigued to see if Howard or Jones cover Waller. Look out for that. I'm not going to be 100% sold on that if that's going to happen, but I wouldn't be shocked if that happens, at least on a few plays in the game and key situations. On the other side, though, I still don't have a lot of faith in Tua. I don't know how well this offense is going to play, but they are playing a defense that is extremely beatable. We saw last week the Raiders, I don't think, made a stop versus the Chargers all game long. Now, that's Justin Herbert, the better quarterback, the superior guy, who the Dolphins, if they had him now, would be maybe a legitimate playoff threat in the AFC. But they have Tua, and they're extremely undermanned at wide receiver. And I don't know if Devontae Parker's playing in this game. I don't know if Gesicki's playing in this game. And those two players are a big deal for their offense. And it's tough. I don't expect the Dolphins to run the ball the way they did last week. I think that's kind of just New England sucking versus the run. Although the Raiders aren't much better in that area, they're more competitive stopping the run than they are stopping the pass. So more is going to be on the plate of Tua in this game to move the ball through the air. Although that's much easier to do than versus New England. So it's a really interesting matchup. I think if the Raiders are able to run the ball on offense and stop the run on defense, they can win the game. So I think it's not going to be one of my best bets, but I'm going to lean towards the team that's been playing more consistent football, especially lately. I'm going to lean towards the team with the defense that I trust. I think this is a game where Miami bringing in all those Patriot guys with the leadership and having Brian Flores as the coach, it's a big get-up spot. It's a prime-time game. I think this is time for Tua to show his worth and perform versus a defense that he should perform against. So I'm going to take Miami to win a close game, 24-20 over the Raiders. I don't know if I'll take I know I just said 24-20. It could be 24-21. I don't know if I'm worthy. I don't know if I want to take the points or not. I guess I'll take Miami to cover, but I'm not swinging either way there. So that's a really good game, though. I think that game's extremely underrated. That's why I might make it a stream of the week. All right, next game. We have the Cleveland Browns at the New York Jets. Cleveland -9, could be 9.5. Kind of depends where you're looking. I like Cleveland a lot in this game. Okay, the Jets just won their game of the year. They had the upset of the season, right? They played their best game of the season of 2020. That's not going to happen 2 weeks in a row. I understand that Cleveland may be looking ahead. I understand Cleveland just played a primetime game. I understand all of that. But to me, if the Jets didn't win last week versus the Rams, if they even lost by 3, I think this spread is above 10. I think the fact that the Jets showed everyone that they can actually beat a good team, even though it was kind of fluky, that makes the spread lower than it should be, in my opinion. I think the fact that the Jets just won the game is going to be actually detrimental to this game. Because when you look at it, now the Jets have the big guys up front to kind of slow down Cleveland, just like the Giants did. And similarly to the Giants, they have a lack of an offense. They have good receivers, a bad offensive line, and probably a better quarterback than the Giants did. The Giants moved the ball a little on Cleveland, which every offense does. But I was impressed how Cleveland came to play in the red zone and were clutch on third down and in the second half. But I just think this Cleveland offense is playing so well right now. The way that they are mixing in their play calls, Stefanski is having this offense running like a well-oiled machine. Baker Mayfield is super confident. He's making all the throws inside and outside the pocket. He is not making a lot of mistakes. And without Quinnen Williams, who's not, I don't think, going to be playing in this game, it does allow for one of the best Jets defenders to be out, which is a key loss considering you're playing Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and the Cleveland rushing attack. So I think Cleveland stays playing well. I think they win this game. They win this game comfortably, and they do not look ahead at next week versus the Steelers, where they could be playing for the division. I think this game, as weird as it sounds, will show how good of a coach Stefanski is. Because just like McVay last week, it's a challenge for a coach to have such a better team than the team you're playing, especially late in the season. It's hard not to look ahead. It's hard to have a good week of practice. It's hard to stay focused. I think the Browns stay focused. They're not going to let this is their chance at the playoffs. This is their chance at the AFC North. They have not had this chance in a very long time. They will not let that go. I believe Cleveland wins. I believe they win comfortably, and they continue to show us that they are a legitimate team, that they are a legitimate, not just playoff team, but possibly a team that could make a little bit of noise. So I have Cleveland winning and winning by double digits, covering the 9. The next game is the New York Giants at the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore is -11. This is interesting. The first time I saw the spread, I was like, ooh, that's interesting. Vegas is starting to believe in Baltimore again. And that does seem like a lot of points playing the Giants, who are a competitive team each and every week, in my opinion. Like, every time I watch the Giants, I feel like they have good game plans. I feel like they play for their coach. They play hard. They're not necessarily the most talented team, but they come to play. They're physical. They're tough. They grind it out. And no matter the quarterback, whether it's been Colt McCoy, Daniel Jones, or whoever has been playing, they've been able to at least stay competitive. Now, the game last week, would have been better if they would have kicked those field goals. Would have been a closer game on the scoreboard. But I'm not really even sure who is playing quarterback in this game. Like, is it Colt McCoy? Is it Daniel Jones? I'm not sure. So for that reason, I will not be betting on this game until at least Sunday if I decide to bet on the game, because I need to know who's playing quarterback. But on paper, I actually think the Giants defense is a good matchup for the Ravens offense in terms of, I think this is going to be a tough challenge for Lamar Jackson. We're going to learn a lot about the Ravens offense for what they could possibly do in January. How legitimate is their rushing attack? Are they legitimately back? Because the Giants, we just saw last week, they did a really good job versus the Cleveland rushing attack. They made it tough on them, and it was really Baker Mayfield's arm that won that game for the Browns. Lamar Jackson, we know that the Ravens offense is heavily built on their ability to run the ball with Lamar and their running backs. And I do think, the big people of the Giants make things competitive there. And, Leonard Williams, Dalvin Tomlinson, these guys are studs. So then you have James Bradbury playing Marquise Brown. That's a pretty good matchup. I believe Bradbury is playing in this game. He's been kind of in and out of the lineup. The Giants, I think, with Daniel Jones, make this game competitive, a one-score game, and I think they cover. Without Daniel Jones, with Colt McCoy, I think that it's going to be probably a game where it's competitive and the Ravens find a way to grind it out and win by like 14. So that's the way I look at it right now. If it's Colt McCoy, I'm leaning towards Baltimore covering by a little. And if it's Daniel Jones, I'm going to lean towards the Giants, making things interesting in the game. Remember, the Giants are still competing for a playoff spot. So that's important to remember that. But Lamar's playing awesome right now. It's tough to bet against him. And the way the Ravens are playing, they legitimately look like a playoff contender right now. And I think, again, continue to watch how is that Baltimore defense coming together. Because like I've said many times, many weeks in a row, Baltimore is going to be, the success of their team is going to be based on Lamar's play and their defense. So that's the number one thing to watch in that game. Next, we have the Cincinnati Bengals at the Houston Texans. The Bengals, just like the Jets, coming off an absolutely crazy win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Corvette, hop in a motherfucking jet like jet, right? The Cincinnati Bengals and stunting on these hoes with Alexander. Freaking, I still can't get over that, man. I still can't get over Maurice Alexander. Literally Deion Sanders high stepping. If you guys didn't see my rant on the Pittsburgh Steelers, I highly suggest you go back to the last video, the bottom line, and watch that video. All right. Well, I might just post it independently. That was a pretty fun rant. But Alexander, bro, like high stepping on the Pittsburgh Steelers is probably the highlight of my season. I'm not gonna lie. That was hilarious. I cannot get over that. Now, as far as this game is concerned, Houston lost by 7 once again to the Colts. Deshaun Watson continuously being let down by players around him. The defense, the playmakers, Kiki Cote fumbling the ball, all that sort of stuff. Cincinnati, they looked good last week. I thought their defense performed very well. I think their secondary has been underrated all year. I still think they have problems up front because, they got rid of Carlos Dunlap. They barely play Geno Atkins anymore. I think they're going to get rid of him in the offseason. But Carl Lawson's playing really well. I think Alexander's playing really well. I think William Jackson is playing really well. Obviously, Jesse Bates is playing really well. So there's good things to look forward to if you're a Bengals fan on defense, as well as we know Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon. They have a foundation there where they could be a successful team moving forward, maybe even as soon as next year if they build that offensive line. The Texans, though, I like the Texans to win this game for the simple fact that they have Deshaun Watson and the Bengals have Ryan Finley. This is another case just like the Jets, where the Jets are going to be so happy that they won a game. And the Bengals are going to be so happy they put all their effort into beating the Steelers, right? That they're not going to show up with nearly the same effort. And the team that you saw on Monday is not the same team you're going to see on Sunday versus the Texans. This game means nothing to either team, but I'm going to go with the team that has Deshaun Watson here. As far as the cover, I'm not confident in it. I don't think the Texans are a good enough team for me to trust that they'll cover 8 points, which is still a lot in the NFL for any team, especially a team that's as bad as the Texans outside of their quarterback position. So I will take the 8 points with Cincinnati just to play the odds there, but I'm going to take the Texans to pull it out and get the win. Guys, if you're enjoying the picks so far, we have over 200 people in the chat, 200 people watching right now. So thank you guys for watching so far. Make sure you do Gronk spike that like button if you haven't already, and subscribe to the channel if you are new and tuning in for the first time. But guys, definitely give the video a Gronk spike to show the support for the channel. All right, so the Chicago Bears at the Jacksonville Jags. I was thinking about this game heavily as one of my best bets this week. The Chicago Bears -7.5. The Jacksonville Jags in the front running for Trevor Lawrence, right? The front running for the number 1 pick. And ahead of the Jets now. Thanks to the Jets' loss, the Jags have been catapulted into this position to get a franchise quarterback. Jacksonville is not going to mess that up. Jacksonville, they're going to do everything in their power before this game from a team perspective, from a front office perspective, to make sure they lose this game. So that being said, Chicago's playing really well. We know that their defense is pretty good, although not been playing as well lately. I expect this to be a bounce back spot for their defense in this game. And I like the way that Matt Nagy has been preparing this offense. I like the way that Matt Nagy is calling plays, switching up formations, basing their offense more on David Montgomery, and then making their passing game secondary to their rushing attack. They found a run game these last few weeks. I think that will be big in this game. I think Montgomery has another huge game going over 100 yards, and I think the Bears win and the Bears comfortably cover. This is one that I'm not quite sure why the game is 7.5. I'm not exactly sure why it's 7.5 because Jacksonville has more incentive to lose the game. Like, honestly, the Jacksonville Jags have more incentive to lose the game than to win the game. Chicago has all the incentive in the world to win the game because if they win, they have a chance for the playoffs. So clearly to me, this is Chicago all night long, and I'm taking the Bears to win this game and to continue their hot streak covering versus Jacksonville. Next, the Atlanta Falcons at the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are favored by over 10 points over the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this game's in Kansas City. This game was in Atlanta. I think we would be looking at maybe a potential upset here. But I think the fact that it's in Kansas City and it's outdoors, I think that has an impact on Atlanta's passing attack, Matt Ryan in general. And we know that Patrick Mahomes, superior in Kansas City, in the weather, in the elements that could be a factor in this game, as opposed to Matt Ryan, who is a good quarterback, actually played one of his better games of the season last week versus Tampa Bay. But Matt Ryan has been a little inconsistent this year, and especially when he's on the road, he isn't the same quarterback. So I like Kansas City to still win this game. The thing is, this game might not matter for the Chiefs. This game might not matter at all. So, the Chiefs could be taking Mahomes, Hill, Kelsey out of the game halfway through the game. If the Chiefs are up in the game, or maybe even if Atlanta is up in the game early, like they were versus Tampa, the Chiefs might just pull their players. That is definitely a factor here. So that's why I would be staying away from betting on this game on either direction, because I don't think this game matters enough for the Chiefs for them to give 100% effort. And Atlanta is, yes, playing for Raheem Morris, but they're not playing for a playoff spot. So this game just feels uncomfortable all the way around. The Chiefs should easily win the game if we're just playing straight up at 100%. And I expect them to win the game. But I will take the 10.5 because I think Atlanta, their offense can at least keep up in the game. And we've seen that Kansas City has not been covering. I mean, they've lacked to cover 5 out of the last 6 or whatever. They've just been bad at covering Vegas's spreads. And it just feels like Kansas City is at that part right now where Vegas is putting their number up 2-3 more points each and every week than what it really should be. So they dominated the Saints and they still didn't cover the 3. So I'm going to go with Atlanta to cover the 10.5. I just feel like it's a big number, but I expect the Chiefs to win the game 100%. So, yeah. What else can I say about the game? I'll just say this. The MVP I'm talking about this year, playing in this game. I won't tell you who it is, but he's playing in this game. That video will be out soon. I expect the Chiefs offense to torch this secondary, though. Grady Jarrett's going to have a huge game. And if Atlanta does cover, it's going to be because Matt Ryan does play well. And they do pass the ball on the Chiefs. But we'll see what happens. I won't be betting on this game. That's for sure. All right. Next, we have the Indianapolis Colts and the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is an awesome game. I think this is going to be a really fun game. Obviously, Pittsburgh, Corvette, LL, and they have lost what? They lost 3 in a row? They lost to Washington. They lost to Cincinnati, and they lost to Buffalo. They lost 3 in a row, guys. Could they make it 4 in a row? I don't know. Indianapolis, on the other hand, is playing really good football. I think the striking thing right now is that Phillip Rivers has played better at quarterback than Ben Roethlisberger. 100% facts. But Phillip Rivers has been a better quarterback this year than Ben Roethlisberger. He has. As for the current form of the defenses, I think the Colts defense might actually be better right now than the Steelers defense. Like, since losing Devin Bush and Bud Dupree, this defense has not played as well. Now, they're still performing well versus the run for the most part, but when you compare the two, I mean, this is tough. This is what I thought was going to happen. I thought the Steelers were going to bounce back last week in big fashion to the point where they were going to win this game. Because from a paper perspective, if we're lining up these teams on paper, Pittsburgh matches up well in this game. Okay? Pittsburgh, their offense, what they like to do is pass the ball short. Ben likes to snap the ball, read his first read, and throw it short. Whenever Pittsburgh is asked to do more than that, they have struggled on offense. Okay? What the Steelers do at their peak of their offense this year has been 5 wide sets, Ben Roethlisberger, snap and throw. And what the Colts defense does is they are great at pass rushing, and they love to take away the big play, which plays in the hands of Pittsburgh, who likes to throw the ball short. Now, in contrast, I feel like the Colts are smart enough in understanding how to attack Ben Roethlisberger right now, understanding how to play the Steelers' offense and how to continue to frustrate them. Because I feel like if Pittsburgh does not get things going early on offense, that is, it's going to be a long day. Because I think Ben, we've seen the frustration wear on him. We've seen the inconsistencies of them having no run game. Their inability to run for a yard has been frustrating to Ben, to the offense. They can't run at all. Okay, and they're not going to run on the Colts. Like, forget it. It's not going to happen. So for them to win this game, for them to be successful on offense, the Colts will have to play a bad game plan, essentially. And I don't expect Matt Eberflus to just roll out there and have a bad game plan. Like, if anything, they play their defense, but they just say to their linebackers and to their safeties, play in the box, come up and play more of the short stuff and don't play as deep. Force Ben to throw down the sidelines and beat you down the field instead of, okay, we'll give up the short pass, but we'll take away the big play. That's typically how the Colts play. Now, on the other side, like I said, Rivers has been playing better recently than Ben. The Colts, I feel, are one of the few offensive lines who can protect their quarterback versus the Steelers' pass rush. And when that has happened, I do feel like the Steelers are susceptible in the back end. So I think the Colts and their actual coaching advantage from a schematic perspective, Tomlin, I would say, is a better coach, but Reich and Eberflus are better game planners. And we've seen the Steelers with Fichtner, and their defensive staff, their inability to adjust recently has been a huge reason that they are on a losing streak right now. While the Colts' ability to continue to evolve offensively, defensively with their game plans, I think, has been a huge reason they're on a winning streak. So I am going to take the Colts. The crazy thing here is that this line started at -2 for Pittsburgh. I actually took it a teasing the Colts up to 8.5. Now the spread is the opposite. The spread is Pittsburgh -2. So although I felt a couple weeks ago that I was probably going to lean towards Pittsburgh in this matchup, I think the form of each team suggests the Colts should win the game, and I feel they have the coaching edge, the quarterback edge, and the defensive edge, surprisingly enough. So I will take Indianapolis to go to Pittsburgh and win a huge game, because the Colts, they win this game and Tennessee loses, they're in the driver's seat for their division. So it is a big game for the Colts. It is a big game for the Steelers as well. But I'm expecting a good game between two legendary, arguably Hall of Fame quarterbacks. All right, next, we have the Denver Broncos at the LA Chargers. Chargers minus a field goal in this game. I'm going to go with the Chargers here. This game doesn't matter for the playoffs, but I'm going to take the better quarterback, Justin Herbert. I'm going to take the better set of weapons in LA, and I am going to take a quarterback who is balling out, who's now playing a defense with no corners, right? Big reason I loved the Bills last week to cover. I thought it was the lock of the century, was because the Broncos have no corners. So now they're playing another team. Justin Herbert, kind of similar to Josh Allen, ability to extend plays, big arm, young playmaker. They have Keenan Allen, they have Mike Williams, they have Hunter Henry. I think these guys are matchup issues for the Broncos secondary. I think the Chargers, they're at home in this game. It's not in Mile High, another factor to take LA. I will take the Chargers to win this game and for Herbert to continue his Rookie of the Year status. That's basically what he's playing for right now, is to come home with that Rookie of the Year trophy, and that's why the Chargers will win this game. Next, Carolina at Washington. Washington -2. Now, I have no idea who Washington's quarterback is in this game. I'm going to assume that it's Alex Smith, but I don't know. So I won't be giving you a definitive pick here, but I am definitely leaning towards Washington as long as it is Alex Smith. And I would say the biggest reason is a Ron Rivera revenge game. He was fired from Carolina. I think he's going to have his players playing very hard, along with the incentive for them to win the NFC East and be in the driver's seat to do so in Week 17. It's a big, big factor. So I think Washington's front seven is overwhelming, and Carolina's offensive line is just overall not very good. Now, I think Washington, what we've learned from Washington is, they're a good defense, not just because of their pass rush, but they also do a good job behind their pass rush of taking away, what the other offense likes to do when they're under pressure. Like essentially blitz packages, pressure packages. Carolina is going to try to get the ball out quick. Teddy can't really throw the ball down the field, especially on the road in another outdoor game. We saw him struggle outdoors versus the Packers. I think that is going to be, once again, a factor there. On the other side, I think Brian Burns is hurt, which he's a really, really good player. And if he's not playing, that takes away the Panthers, arguably their best defensive player and their best pass rusher at the very least. So Washington, Terry McLaurin, I don't think they have a matchup for him. Logan Thomas has been playing really well. McKissick, if Gibson is playing, not sure if he will or not, but him versus Shaq Thompson, that's a good matchup. I think McLaurin has a big day. I think Washington's defense gets pressure on Teddy, turns the ball over. I think Washington wins because they have more incentive and because of the Ron Rivera factor here. Now, hoping it's Alex Smith. If it's not Alex Smith, I'll adjust my pick, but I'm going to go with Washington in this game. Next, the LA Rams. This is going to be the stream of the day, stream of the week on Sunday. That's the LA Rams at the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle at home. Seattle -1.5, possibly 2, depending on where you're betting. I like the Rams. The Rams, the first time they played, dominated the game. They dominated the front seven. They matched up well in the secondary. Their defense played absolutely lights out in LA. And the Rams offense did enough to move the football, running the ball, passing the ball, to be able to score and win. Now, LA is coming off an absolutely embarrassing loss. And even Sean McVay saying that he is embarrassed about the loss to the Jets, I think that is absolutely a huge factor. It doesn't seem like a huge factor. Even maybe to some people would be a factor for why Seattle is favored. It's because the Rams lost to the Jets, which is definitely something. But when you look at the matchups, actually, I know this is going to be funny to say, but the Jets defense, I feel, matches up better than the Seahawks defense does. The The Jets, at least, good versus the run, can kind of be overpowering, get an interior rush on Jared Goff, make things uncomfortable. I feel like Seattle still has struggled to get pressure on quarterbacks, and they're not an overwhelming defensive line where they're going to totally win that matchup in the run game. Sean McVay's had all the answers to the quiz, the test, versus Pete Carroll's defenses over the years, and that I would give the inherent advantage to Jared Goff and the Rams offense, because the Rams offense goes as far as their offensive line play goes, and they're in keeping Jared Goff comfortable. Very important, and I think they're going to be able to do that. Also, Seattle doesn't really play a lot of elaborate coverages or, they don't really match up in the back end. They don't really make things challenging in that facet of the game. So the Rams should be able to run their kind of key concepts. They play this defense a whole bunch of times and convert through the air on short yardage and things like that. And we've seen that when their offense is good, I think Jared Goff is comfortable. Their offensive line is playing well, and I think that will be the case in this game. On the other side of things, I think the Rams have a lot of things that give Seattle issues, right? Pressure, an overwhelming defensive line that just dominates the Seattle offensive line. They have Jalen Ramsey to match up with DK Metcalf. They have a good secondary with a very elaborate scheme. They're very game plan specific on that side of the ball. And I do think that makes things hard on Russell Wilson. Wilson had his worst game versus the Rams last time they played. Now, I don't expect Seattle to struggle as much on offense. I think they will find a way to get DK the ball in this game. I think they will find a way to move the ball a little bit better. But I do expect the Rams to win the game. This is a huge bounce back spot. This is a massive game. Home field isn't really a factor. I think the Rams win the game. I think they're the better team. They're a tough matchup for the Seahawks. And I think the Rams come out and prove they're the best team in the NFC West here and win this game. If the Seahawks win, it's because Jared Goff has a bad game, and it's because Russell Wilson overcomes the inherent advantage that Aaron Donald has over his offensive line, the inherent advantage that the Rams have from a talent perspective elsewhere in other facets of the game. So everything suggests from a matchup perspective that the Rams should win. The only thing that would really tell me the Seahawks will win is if Jared Goff poops himself, and if just because the Rams won the first game, they split this year. But that's really it. I don't see a lot that tells me Seattle should win this game. Just going to be honest. But I do expect it to be a good game. That's not to say it's not going to be competitive. I'm just saying I just think this is a challenging matchup for Seattle. So I'm going to take the Rams. That might be one of my best bets. Philadelphia at the Dallas Cowboys. Philadelphia -1.5. Now this game is really interesting. I think this game is going to be really fun, actually. Just, having Jalen Hurts, who's looked really, really promising these last couple of weeks, and then having Andy Dalton. Actually, this offense in Dallas looking a lot like we thought it would look without Dak Prescott. Not being an utter disaster, actually putting up points and being able to distribute the football through the passing game. Tony Pollard hitting a few explosive runs last week. And it just goes to show, guys, they made a mistake with the Zeke thing. They should have never signed Zeke. Arguably, Pollard right now has been playing better football than Zeke, and that's just straight up embarrassing. This defense could still have Byron Jones if they never signed Zeke. So that's something that, that's a discussion for another time. But that's just frustrating because I saw that coming, and that's just the way it goes. But Philadelphia at least has been, more exciting and interesting with Jalen Hurts. I've liked watching them play recently because I feel like they've given some offensive creativity. We've seen Hurts' ability as a runner. We've seen the ability as a big play passer. We have seen his ability to escape sacks and make plays. We have seen the Eagles' offense overall playing better, more efficient football. I think the Cowboys' defense is actually playing better, though. right now. I know the Cowboys defense isn't very good, but I think they're playing better than the Eagles defense. The Eagles defense hasn't been playing well lately, and I don't know if the Eagles have the receivers to really threaten the Cowboys' lack of a secondary in this game. I think this game's really tight. I really don't know where to go here. I kind of want to pick Jalen Hurts, but I also like the Cowboys. I mean, it's tough. Both of these teams, it's still alive in the NFC East. The Eagles are extremely beat up in the secondary. I think the game will be determined based on which defensive line plays better. I think that's really what's going to win this game. I think both teams have good defensive lines. DeMarcus Lawrence played awesome last week. Aldon Smith, Gregory, those guys played well this year, and they kind of pieced it together a little bit. The Eagles, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. I mean, Fletcher Cox has been a monster lately. Brandon Graham's going to his Pro Bowl. They're playing well as well. Both teams don't have a very good secondary. The Cowboys have the weapons to take advantage in the back end. And the Eagles, I don't know if they do or not. So it's interesting, but I am leaning towards Dallas. I don't necessarily know why. I just kind of have a feeling with the way that they played last week. I think they are starting to get things going. I don't know. I don't have a good feel for this game, but I'm leaning towards Dallas here. I don't really know, but I think that them having more playmakers than the Eagles is the reason they win. So I'll take Dallas. Next, the Tennessee Titans at the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay minus a field goal. From the beginning of the year, I am not going to back down. I have liked the Titans since I saw this game on the schedule. So for that fact, I will take the Titans. I actually think the Titans are the better team. Green Bay, yes, I think has the better record, but maybe by a game. They're in the weaker conference. Green Bay has not beat anyone this year. They actually have the same amount of wins over winning teams as the New York Jets. Think about that for a second. But I picked the Titans when the schedule came out, and I am not shying away from that pick. Now, I will say this game will be very good. The reason why I say that is because I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have time. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to put up numbers. I think that, when he has time, he's going to be able to pick you apart. So I do see the Packers scoring 30. But the Titans offense is just as good as the Packer offense. And I will say, the Titans getting maybe a Dory Jackson back this game is absolutely huge for them. And even Malcolm Butler, I think is going to be competitive if he's covering Devontae Adams. I don't think Devontae Adams is just going to straight up win that matchup all day long. Butler is feisty. Butler is good on those route running type receivers. And Adams doesn't really have the speed to burn him down the field. So I do think the Titans secondary and Mike Vrabel's ability to scheme up things will make it a little bit competitive in certain areas of the game. In the red zone, on third down, when they can make stops. But I do expect the Packers fully to score 30 points. The Titans, on the other side, this is a bad matchup for Green Bay. Derrick Henry should, and I think will, run for 170 plus yards in this game. The Packers are bad versus power run teams. And this is Derrick Henry we're talking about. Derrick Henry. Okay? Then you have Ryan Tannehill, who's maybe the most efficient quarterback in football. A.J. Brown, Jair Alexander is going to be a very good matchup, in my opinion. That's one of the best receivers versus one of the best corners. But I will say, A.J. Brown's size might give Alexander a little bit of a problem. And Corey Davis should feast in this game. I think Tannehill off play action should have success in this game because I think the Packers will be trying to stop the rushing attack of the Titans, but I don't know how much success they'll have. I think the Titans are a bad matchup for Green Bay. I am going to say that the Titans win, and it's going to be like 34-31, something like that. But I would definitely take the Titans plus the 3. So Green Bay has not looked good, and they looked bad last week. And I still have not seen them play enough good teams for me to suggest that they are going to be a top 3 team in the AFC. So give me Ryan Tannehill, give me the Titans to win this game. Going to be a good one. Monday Night Football. The Buffalo Bills at the New England Patriots. This game I think is going to be better than people think. Now, Stephon Gilmore just went on IR, so he's not playing in this game. The Patriots still have most of their secondary intact, including J.C. Jackson. The last game they played was 24-21. New England lost on the last play of the game. Cam Newton fumbled, running into the end zone, basically, for the game winner. This is more of a matchup where I would say, like, this is a statement game potentially for Buffalo, like, to show us, like, how good they are. Because the Bills have been dominating teams, but dominating teams they should dominate. Like, at least in New England's sake, that New England's not a good team. New England's not a playoff team. But at least it's a team that poses them some problems. Like, it's a matchup that at least poses them some problems. So I expect Buffalo to fully win the game. But New England should come out here and should be competitive and should make this one interesting. I do think New England can run the ball on the Bills. I do think that this is going to be their full effort to come out in spoiler mode because this is really the only game, their last game of the season where it really is going to be any worth of damn for the Patriots at all. I'm not picking New England in this game, but I do think it's going to be interesting and fun to watch. I think what you're watching here is for Buffalo to gain some balance through their offense. The Patriots' run defense has been so bad the last 2 weeks. If it was a little bit better, I might even say that New England had a chance to upset the Bills. But they've allowed like 400 yards the last 2 weeks rushing. I think Buffalo should have 100 yards rushing. I think they'll kind of have the same game plan that they had last time, where Buffalo is going to be actually more lenient or more leaning towards running the ball versus New England than actually passing to go against their strength and lean on their weakness there. And Brian Daboll has been smart enough in certain games to be able to do so, and he'll do that in this game, I think. And Josh Allen makes enough plays for them to pull out the win. I'm going to say Buffalo wins 27-17. 27. I'll say 27-20. It's going to be like a round of push. Maybe Buffalo slightly covers. I'll take Buffalo to cover the game because I just don't have any faith in New England. I think Buffalo's defense is playing better. I think Buffalo should be able to slow down Cam, being that they saw him play once already. They've seen the runs and they've seen the stuff that they threw at them the first time. So given that they've seen it already, similarly to Miami, they should have a better defensive approach this time around. Being in New England makes it interesting, and it is Monday night, and Monday Night Dog's always interesting, but I'm going to take Buffalo. I think if Buffalo truly is what a lot of people think they are, which is the best or the second best team in the league, they need to win this game, and they need to win this game kind of comfortably because New England is not very good. So if they do not win this game comfortably, if they do not win this game at all, you're starting to become concerned about Buffalo heading into the playoffs because New England is the only at least average team that they've played recently. So Buffalo, and they're not like, they're at least a challenging matchup. Like Pittsburgh was a decent team, but they're not a good matchup. So I'm going to take Buffalo to win. I'll take Buffalo to cover. I'm just looking as a Patriots fan to see like any of the young guys pop. Does Uche show up? Winovich show up? Duggar show up? Any of the guys on defense? Offensively, Jacoby Myers had a really underrated game last week, over 100 yards versus Xavier Howard. And looking to see if Cam can put out a good performance, but not much really going for a Patriots fan. At least it's on Monday night, so there's some excitement there, but going to be weird watching the playoffs without the Patriots. But I'll take the Bills to win, and I'll take the Bills to cover because they should cover here. So there you go. That won't be a best bet, though. Those are my picks for week number 16, the 2020 NFL season. Let me know what you guys have for your picks this week. Best bets will be out on rather Friday morning or tomorrow, kind of depending on when I feel comfortable putting it out. Like the last week, I was just going so back and forth. I think this is a reason why I didn't do well in best bets last week, was because like my 6th and 7th bet both hit, right? Cleveland -6 or whatever, which I had at 4.5. And then the other game was Chicago +3. But I just decided to go with other games. Like I was in my head too much last week, I think. So I'm going to be a little bit more relaxed this week. Kind of just take the first ones that pop to me and go with it. But that's why you guys should definitely subscribe to my Patreon, because I don't just like lay money, or sometimes I don't even lay money on the games that I'd make my best bets. Like, to be completely honest with you, like last week, I didn't bet Pittsburgh. Even though I made it a best bet, I didn't bet Pittsburgh after the success I had on Sunday. So that's a reason to subscribe to Patreon, which thank you guys, all you guys that have subscribed to Patreon, because we've had a lot of Patreon subscribers recently, and that's been awesome. But yeah, that's definitely why you should subscribe to Patreon, because if you are interested in my bets and like the best bets video, you enjoy that stuff, it's a good reason to subscribe there, because I actually post bets on there that I don't post in my best bets, or that are not, spread related. Maybe they're total related, or they're props, or other things that I bet that, like, that's the thing that sucks, right? As a content creator, is you post a 5 best bets of the week and you do bad, but you actually win money, which is funny. Like sometimes I've actually had weeks where I did good on best bets and I lost money. So it goes both ways, but that's why you should subscribe to Patreon. All right, let's get to some comments. Let me know what you guys think. And if you enjoyed the picks this week, make sure you do Gronk spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more NFL. Let's get to some questions and some comments from the people out there. Ultra says the Patriots suck, but they do have certain matchup advantages that teams look past them due to how bad they are. Yeah, I mean, New England's pass defense has played really well almost in every game this year. I think the only game that I would really say they had a bad game secondary-wise was Houston. Other than that, from a pass defense perspective, I would still take them in the tops of the league. But their run defense is just so bad that like it doesn't even matter. It opens up everything else. And of course, their run attack is pretty good, but I don't think it's enough to beat Buffalo. I think Buffalo's too good. Durkan says, my upsets / bounce back spots. Falcons over the Chiefs, 35-30. He hates the Chiefs. Steelers over the Colts, 21-20. Panthers over Washington, 24-20. Rams over Seahawks, 28-24. And Patriots over the Bills, 23-21. Brian says, Mitch, if Henry has 200 rushing yards against Green Bay, which is possible, and Henry hits 200 yards and Tennessee wins the AFC South, does Henry get serious MVP talk since he would have beat Green Bay? Not from me. And I think he would get votes, but I don't think he would be in serious conversation to win the award. He would probably get a couple votes, though. Opium says, Corvette. Rob says, fact or fiction? Jets trade down with the 2nd pick? Probably not. I think they're just going to pick their quarterback. Durkant and Ultra going back and forth in the pick'em. Singh says, Mitch, Tannehill is trash in cold weather. Says who? Yeah, you like that Brady jersey? It's pretty sexy, right? I actually, it's funny. I ordered it like 6 months ago. I ordered it for my dad for Father's Day because he's a wise man. He is also a Brady fan. So it's actually technically my dad's jersey. But he allows me to put it up here. All right. But it's now become a Christmas present for him, even though it was a Father's Day present. I actually got $70 back because NFL Shop took like 6 months to send me this damn jersey. You know what's funny is Cam Newton jersey came in like a week, and this one came like just in time for the Super Bowl run. So let's go. Do I like Jerry Jeudy this year? I like Jerry Jeudy's talent. Do I like him this year? Not necessarily. I think he's been a little underwhelming, but I do still think he'll be a good player. Michael says, why did the Niners sign Josh Rosen? Because they are taking a chance on a former first-round pick. Nothing more, nothing less. Durcan says, Mitch really ain't get me nothing for Christmas. I'm mad. No, Durcan, it's the other way around. You should be getting me something for Christmas. By the way, Connor is supposed to be sending me money so I can buy my Matthew Stafford jersey. Opium says, who signed the Eagles football? Opium, you know that answer already. It's Brian Dawkins. You're in this chat every week. You know that answer. I've had that. Somebody asked me that a lot. Durcan is on Mitch's naughty list. Rob says Rosen was signed due to an injury to Mullins and Josh Johnson on the COVID list. Winrus says LFG TB12. Durcan says, nah, Mitch loves me. Debatable. Oh, by the way, guys, you had a lot of likes on my Pro Bowl video. Far more than 50, so we will be making that Pro Bowl snubs video very soon. Samuel says, would you like Matt Ryan on the Patriots? Depends for how much money. Opium says, Weapon X. Yes. Yes. Isaiah says, I'm a Saints fan. Good for you. Ultra says, nah, Mitch makes fun of you all the time, and you do the same. Hey, Durcan, I won a playoff game in Madden today. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? Guys, we're at 61 likes. We have like 200. We have 220 people in here and only 61 likes. Like, what's up with that? Like, can we at least get 69 likes? Like, come on. Rob says, I hope the Niners draft Zach Wilson. We'll see. Maybe. Michael says, my Super Bowl is Packers-Chiefs. Interesting. Brian says, any dark horse championship games? I think the Colts and Browns is a legit dark horse because I think that when all 7 teams are at their best, they can be the most balanced. I think a dark horse championship game would be Baltimore, Tennessee, if that's even possible. I don't really know what's possible. In the NFC, I would go with Tampa Bay versus... I'm trying to think what's possible. Tampa Bay versus Seattle, I guess, would be a dark horse NFC championship game. Amanda says that Mahomes should win MVP. Kevin says, Mitch, what happened with the Pats? Mathematically eliminated. Try again next year. They suck. What else do you want me to say? Will you make it to the Super Bowl? I don't know. We'll see. I got a tough game next. Joshua says Bills 31-27 over the Packers in the Super Bowl. Jacob says, go Steelers. I hope we get Najee Harris and Wilson. I'm an LSU fan, so it's weird for me to be wanting Harris. I want Harris on New England so that we can have Damian and Najee and put them in the same number so that nobody knows which one's which. Ultra says New England has a better chance with Stidham. For what? To beat the Bills? Is that what you're saying? Don't even talk about the clown Juju. Nate Dogg says Tua all the way. What's going on, Nate? Durkant says, your daily reminder, Mitch blew a 17-7 lead in the playoffs in his building. Nah, I put you over. That was on purpose. Joshua says, Patriots need to start Stidham so we can see what he really has to offer. I think the continued Bill Belichick saying that Cam's our quarterback kind of tells you what he thinks of Stidham. KJ says, what's your favorite pick this week? Like straight up or against the spread? Well, against the spread, you will know by my best bets. Straight up, I think, straight up. Let me look. There's not a lot of big spreads this week. I think straight up, my favorite pick's probably Chicago. Maybe Tampa. There's not a lot of really obvious straight ups. Dale says, let's go Fins. What's your prediction for Miami? You can go check out the full game preview a little bit earlier, but I picked the Dolphins. Durkant says, Mitch is in a great mood today. Rob says, Tua is decent, but makes some rookie mistakes. Amanda says, what about the Cowboys and the Eagles? I hope they win Sunday. Well, they play each other, so both of them can't win. I picked the Cowboys, but I'm not sure who's going to win, though. Tua is overconfident. Ultra says, I thought the league would be tougher. Yeah, dude's a dickhead. Just kidding. Sebastian says, do you like Arizona -4? I don't hate it. I don't love it either. Jacob says, Mitch, have you considered Jamar Chase? I freaking hope so. Miss 07 says, Mitch, you think Juju's going to dance on the logo? I hope not. Let's just say I hope not, or you're going to see another rant. Winriz says, what are your thoughts on the Bucs offensive play calling after the bye? Not much better. Maybe a little better. A little bit more play action. But it didn't really click in until the second half last week. So Proud Babylonian says, I'm leaning Cowgirls. Kenneth has the Bills and the Titans in the Super Bowl, which is impossible, but that's interesting. Brian says, additionally about the Colts, I really like them as a dark horse. Remember what the Colts did to the Kansas City Chiefs last year with the worst defense, the Jacoby. Past 6 weeks, they scored 32 in a game and allowed 26. See, I think they could pull off an upset, but I don't think they could do it twice in a row. Samuel says, what will the NFL do if a team's star quarterback got the virus? In the playoffs, they would have to delay the game, I think. But I don't know. It's a tough one. Amanda says, I want the Cowboys to win. I don't like the Eagles. Well, go boys, I guess, then. Justin Jefferson is way better than Chase. Justin Jefferson was my favorite receiver in the draft, and the Patriots blew it. Blew it. Why do the Vikings need more receivers? Give us a receiver. The hell? I can't stand this N'Keal Harry no more. Jacob says, I got Steelers versus the Bucks. Battle of the old quarterbacks. I'm not feeling the Steelers pick, but I really do like the Bucks pick. Let's go. What do you think, Mitch? About what? About what? Glad says, I guess we have the battle of the Jays here. Andrew says Raiders will win. Maybe. Maybe. I definitely think they have a chance. No, he's not good. Opium, stop. Nate Dogg says my future is Saints Colts. That's pretty good. I like that. Shiver me timbers. That would be the Rivers Beers Breeze Bowl. Do you think N'Keal Harry will what? Samuel says, will the 2020 Chiefs be considered an all-time team if they win the Super Bowl? Yes. Not by me, but probably by most people. It depends how they do in the playoffs. I'll reserve my judgment. Higgins or Lockett? Ooh. Give me Lockett. Punisher says, should the Eagles draft a lineman or a wide receiver? See, I think their line is a lot better when they have Brandon Brooks there. But the thing is, Kelsey's getting old. Peters is going to retire. But they did just draft a first-round pick at tackle, so it's hard to do it again. Lane Johnson's still there. I don't think their offensive line is bad when they're healthy. They could go on the offensive line. I think they could go like safety too. They could even go deep. Like, the problem with the Eagles is their team is getting old generally, so they have a lot of places where they could go. It depends how good the receiver on the board is that they could get. But if you could get another elite receiver, there's not many positions that change your team as much. There's a lot of viable positions for the Eagles, which I think is a little scary. Amanda says, I really can't wait to see what Derrick Henry does versus the Packers. I don't like Rodgers. I think Derrick Henry is going to have a good game. I'm going to say Derrick Henry has a highlight that you see on Twitter or Instagram, depending on your social media preference, where Derrick Henry stiff arms somebody to the ground. Sebastian says they need to draft an offensive lineman and a receiver. Probably. Karen, you're right. Teddy Bridgewater is not elite. I agree. Random says, will the Steelers choke division or nah? If they lose to the Colts, yes. That's just savage, though. Winner says, don't trust the Packers D can stop Henry at all. Winrus agrees with me. Kenneth says Derrick Henry is a monster. Derrick Henry is a grown man. That's what I'll say. Grown man. Do you think that Trey was a good pick? Trey who? Singh says, Mitch, will the Titans score 0 points? No. Manda says, Henry is going to run all over them. Sebi says, what do you think about Michael Pittman? I like Michael Pittman a little bit. I don't think he's one of the better guys that got picked, but I think he's solid. Jasmine says, do you think Tomlin will be on the hot seat if they choke? No. Miss 07 says, Mitch, what do you think of a Dolphins Cardinals Super Bowl? Very unlikely, but would be interesting, I guess. The kid says, Lamar Jackson going to be better. Lamar Jackson has been really good lately. Sebastian says, which game this week is a trap game? Maybe the... I don't know. Let me see. Maybe the Dolphins game? Good question. I guess you could say it's the Browns. But I don't really see a clear one that pops out to me. My team's the Patriots. We suck. Random Dude says Julian Blackmon, Chase Young, or Jeremy Chin for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Ooh. From what I've seen, Chin. Should I play Rodgers or Tannehill? Rodgers. They're not the greatest show on turf, but they're different. I don't know if did they even have a nickname? They should. Karen says, who would stop the Chiefs in the AFC? Who would? I would rephrase that and say, who can? because I don't know if anyone will, but I think there is a world where the Bills can beat them, and I think there is a world where the Titans can beat them, and I think there is a world where who else? Like the Colts, like we were saying earlier, I think the Colts, there's a world where they could beat them, but there's a degree in each, right? There's a percentage. It's only one game, right? You could beat any team in one game. If the 2007 Patriots can lose, any team can lose. Nate says Bills, Colts, and the Ravens can stop the Chiefs. I'm not sure about the Ravens. I love the Ravens, but I just don't know if they can match up with the Chiefs. So I've seen it too many times now. Key says Carolina money line over Washington. I don't like that. I mean, but if you feel conviction, then you can go about it. Show says, can DK prove us that he is the next offensive player of the year? No, he's not going to be it. But he's a great player. Amanda says, I like Cam Newton, to be honest, and I don't like Brady and Antonio Brown, just saying. Amanda, please leave the chat. Thank you. No, I'm just kidding. All right. I think I'm done. I hope you guys enjoyed the picks vid this week and the breakdowns, the predictions, the preview, and the analysis. If you enjoyed, again, Gronk spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. Peace.